Welcome. This presentation is available for MCLE self-study credit. If you would like to receive credit, you must take 3 actions. First, click Show More text below on our YouTube page. The text will expand and show a link to download the handout materials. Once you finish watching this presentation, please click the quiz link to receive self-study credit. Once the quiz is successfully completed, you will receive a certificate via email within 72 hours. We hope you enjoy the presentation. Thank you. Now, without any further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce our speakers for this final program, beginning with Judge Paul Bacigalupo. Judge Bacigalupo has been a leading voice for attorney and judicial wellness throughout his 25-year career as a judge, starting at the California State Bar Court and 22 years as a judge throughout the Los Angeles Superior Court, including a full-time assignment for 5 years in the court's mandatory settlement program, where he settled almost every kind of two-party and to complex designated civil case. As the 89th president of the California Judges Association, he founded its Mindfulness and Wellness Committee and has been speaking and writing for attorneys, law firms, bar associations, and judges at conferences and webinars throughout the United States. Judge Bacigalupo has spent his career mentoring attorneys who aspire to get appointed to the bench and is the founding chair of the California Judicial Mentorship Program, a partnership between the governor's office and the judicial branch. Judge Bacigalupo has had the unique opportunity to spend time with attorneys and judges throughout California and gain an unparalleled perspective of the nuances and decision-making processes and the diversity of litigants, injured persons, attorneys, courts, jury pools, insurance carriers, businesses, partnerships, domestic and international corporations, and government entities. He has significant expertise in simple and complex legal matters, including business lit, personal injury, employment disputes, real estate, and civil rights cases. And he has a reputation to diffuse conflict and create a sustainable pathway towards settlement. He's been a mediator for over 35 years and joined ADR Services, Inc. last year in 2024. So thank you for joining us today, Judge Bacigalupo, for this novel concept of the wellness program. And our other speaker this afternoon is Judge Steve Austin. Judge Austin joined us in 2022 after a distinguished 23 years of judicial service as a judge of the Contra Costa Superior Court. For 13 years, Judge Austin managed a busy civil direct assignment caseload where he was responsible for all case management, law in motion, discovery, settlement conferences, and trials. He became widely renowned for proactively and successfully settling his cases and conducted close to 1,000 settlement conferences over the course of his judicial career. So if anybody needs some meditation, it sounds like it's you, Judge Austin. In addition to this, Judge Austin was also deeply involved in court leadership and worked tirelessly to promote better access to the court system for the underserved. And as a neutral mediator, arbitrator, and referee, his approachable personality and intellect allow him to appreciate the complexities and subtleties of each case before him. And he focuses on viewing everyone as a person rather than a problem. So thank you for lending your expertise to our program this afternoon, Judge Austin.
Thanks, Katie.
All right, I will turn it over to you to get us underway here.
Okay, welcome everybody. I'm sure it's been a long day for all of you of classes, some of them tough topics I'm sure have been covered. Now this one's going to be a little bit different. It's time to relax and talk about taking care of ourselves so that we could be happier, healthier people who happen to be lawyers. That's a good thing to do in and of itself, even if you didn't get credit for it, but you get credit with this one too for the new requirement, MCLE requirement of competence through the wellness provisions. We think that's the better part of the competence anyway, is the wellness, and we're lucky to have Judge Bacigalupo here who's an expert in this area to talk to us about it. And I think you're going to start things off, right, Paul?
Yes. Thank you, Steve. You know, it's a pleasure, Steve, to work with you. And I was thinking it's been over 20 years when we first did a presentation in San Diego. It was a statewide conference, but no, you've been a real pioneer in delivering programs for access and fairness to the court. So I really have enjoyed working with you and getting prepared for this. So, a lot of people say, oh, I've tried meditation, but I can't do it. I just can't. My mind is too busy. And so they give up. Of course, it's about practice, and practice means starting with 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5, 10, 15, and it can go up to 30 minutes for some people. But I'd like people to put into the Q&A right now if you actually have a meditation practice, and just let us know. It kind of gives us a sense. We have a lot of people, but you can share that. And you know what? Meditation can be just about anything. There is also a type where you are seated, and I'd like to do that and spend just a couple of minutes. So for those that are interested in following along, please, you're invited to do that. Others, if you're not interested, then just please listen and watch. So what I'd like to do is ask everyone to begin by bringing your attention into your body. And you can close your eyes if that's comfortable to you. You can notice your body seated wherever you're seated, feeling the weight of your body on the chair or on the floor, wherever you may be. And take a few deep breaths. And as you take a deep breath, bring in more oxygen to liven your body. And as you exhale, have a sense of relaxing more deeply. You can notice your feet on the floor. Notice the sensation of your feet touching the earth. The weight and pressure, vibration, heat. You can notice your legs against the chair. Pressure, pulsing, heaviness, lightness. Your back against the chair. Bring your attention into your stomach area. If your stomach is tense or tight, let it soften. Take a breath. Notice your hands. Are your hands tense or tight? See if you can allow them to soften. Notice your arms. Feel any sensation in your arms. Let your shoulders be soft. Notice your neck and throat. Let them be soft, relaxed. Soften your jaw. Let your face and facial muscles be soft. Then notice your whole body present. Take one more breath. Be aware of your whole body as best you can. Take a breath. And then, when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Well, thank you for joining me with that. And we'll go in then to our next slide. to learning objectives. This is what we'd like to accomplish today. Building resilience to help us interact more successfully with others and deal with stress, crises, trauma. And then apply some resilience techniques and tools to deal with difficult people and situations. And lastly, how to be the best version of yourself with a focus on happiness and being authentic, finding your true voice, being the best person that you could possibly be. Next slide.
Well, why is this an important topic? It can kind of seem obvious that it's important for us to be the best person that we could be, but it really kind of came to the fore recently, at least as for lawyers. There were a few studies that came out that studying lawyers and their personal lives and behaviors back about 10 years ago that found alarming results in the levels of stress and depression in the profession. As a result, the ABA got together a group that made a national task force on lawyer well-being, and it came up with a number of recommendations. The studies that were the basis of that report found a number of things. First, there was one study that studied 13,000 practicing attorneys and judges. It found that a quarter to a third qualified as problem drinkers, that about a quarter struggled with some level of depression, anxiety, and stress. This is a quote from the report. The parade of difficulties also includes suicide, social alienation, work addiction, sleep deprivation, job dissatisfaction, a diversity crisis, complaints of work-life conflict, incivility, a narrowing of values so that profit predominates, and negative public perception. One scary finding was that young lawyers had the highest rates of drinking and depression. Another study of law students found that about 20% of them suffer from depression and anxiety, and about a quarter of them were drinking so much that they were on the road of serious risk to alcoholism. The ABA group was really concerned about that for a number of reasons. First and foremost, the health of the people that are in our profession, but also about how the issues that are affecting so many people can affect their competency to provide legal services. And I think in a broader way, public trust and confidence in the courts and the legal system. I know it's difficult to talk about, especially after we all felt so good with that meditation, but it's why this is important, and that's why I wanted to make sure that all of us understood it. Let's go on with the next slide.
Steve, let me just, if I can just add something there, because in 2019, a similar national study and survey was conducted with respect to judges, and a very similar finding was found with respect to the same things that you mentioned, that lawyers reported. Judges report the same thing. And so the outcome of those both reports are about, we are in this together as professionals. It starts in law school, it goes through your careers, and for those that become judges as well. So we're all in this together.
We were judges. We were all lawyers once, and we were all law students once. So, yeah, it doesn't mean it doesn't affect the bench. That's for sure. And how did these things show up in our everyday life for the lawyers that we see and those that are around us? The burnout rate is high. We all know that from our own personal exposure to attorneys. We all know somebody who all they can do is say how much they hate being a lawyer and they want to go do something else. The burned out lawyers, I saw them in court all the time. They couldn't get it together to be able to make a coherent argument sometimes. The effort was too much. And I think it's because they were depressed and having difficult time. Could be substance abuse or other things, but are just burned out by the stress of it. And I think it's a very common thing in our practice, and all of us have seen it. I think it results in incivility in the profession as well. Studies have shown that it's directly linked. People react when they're having mental health issues or substance abuse issues, both, badly to stress, badly to conflict, and actually can be conflict generators in the way that they behave. And so we see it with the rise of incivility in the profession, and that the incivility not only makes it hard for those other lawyers who are practicing, but it makes it hard for the court, it makes it hard for the clients, it makes it hard for in our mission, which is really to find justice in our profession. And when people have petty disputes, petty arguments and insulting, and don't respect others, it makes the whole profession more difficult to participate in.
Let me just make a point here on this one, Steve, about incivility, because it particularly still shows up with people of color and women. The level of disrespect and condescending tone and things of that sort that our colleagues have to face and endure is just so deeply unfortunate. So there's a lot of work, and in fact, civility is now a MCLE requirement. It's that serious of a problem.
It's in the oath. So so all of you new lawyers, it's got put in back more than 10 years ago as part of the oath. Civility is required, and it's required of all of us, really. I know the judges, if you want to have a successful practice, you got to behave civilly, both in terms of the way that the court views you, but also your colleagues, the jurors, parties, anybody that interacts with you. And one thing that can really happen when you're not civil is it can affect other aspects. I mean, your ethics requirements, you could end up getting in trouble with state bar, your career, you're not going to be as successful as you are, because people want competent, credible, nice lawyers who could do their job and without insulting others. And it could lead to health. I've got a story that actually happened to me when I first started practicing. I had a hard time. I did plaintiff PI work, and I noticed right away that the attorneys were treating me, I thought, badly. I was getting hung up on, and people were swearing at me and treating me bad, taking advantage of me in deposition because I didn't know what I was doing, and just not behaving in that professional way that I thought. But I did notice that I had some cases with some of the older attorneys, senior ones that would probably be my age now, who had that professionalism, had that way about them, that I thought that's what the law was about. And I really enjoyed having cases with them. Anyway, I had a deposition with one, and at the end of it, he treated me wonderfully throughout the deposition. I mean, he advocated for his client, but at the same time did it with respect and dignity throughout. And I talked to him about it. I said, why are these younger guys I'm dealing with, I'm having a hard time, but you and a couple of other more senior attorneys are treating me so much better and doing the way I thought that the practice of law was. And he looked at me and he stood up very straight and he said, why the jerks all die young, that's why. That's exactly what he said. Well, he had a different word, but he said that. And at the time, I thought it was kind of funny and he was making a joke. But hey, I'm old enough and I worked in the courts for so long, it's really true. The people that behave badly, let their anger out, they're the ones that end up having the substance abuse problems, they have mental health problems, they have family problems, they get divorced, they lose their partnerships, they have problems in their practice. People don't want to be around them. They lose clients. They lose respect of the court, and their health goes. They're the ones that do. They drop. We've had people. I know somebody in court that had that reputation was that way and was actually being kind of like that, and ended up having a stroke in court. It does happen, and it happens with a lot. You see them not just necessarily their health, but they fade out of the practice much earlier than other people. Where others that behave in a way that is conducive to a long and happy life, those are the ones that stick around and are successful.
Well, here we have an audience poll. So here it's popping up. So we'll just take a couple of minutes. It gives us an opportunity to measure where our audience is at. So go ahead and start answering the questions. There's 10 of them.
And I will note that all of your responses are anonymous. We'll give people just another minute or so to respond. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close the poll here.
All right. Okay, so that the first one was about sleep destruction. And good 60%, yes, it's a problem. Hey, this is an active group with regularly exercising.
Maybe Katie can scroll down and see if everybody eats well.
You can scroll down on yours as well. I think you have to do it
Yeah.
directly.
Well, about 2/3 don't have the healthy eating habits.
And just about, you know, half have good work-home balance. And number 10, the last one, feeling joy and happiness with work and personal relationships. About half yes, and quite a few just not sure, somewhat. Well, look, these are issues that we all face. It's about life. It's about our personal and professional lives. And here we are, not far off of the beginning of the new year. A lot of people make New Year's resolutions. I'm still saying Happy New Year. I think it's getting a little late now. But what we'd like you to do is, if you have a piece of paper nearby, write down 3 things you would like to commit to change in 2025. And if you're comfortable, pop some of those things into the Q&A. Just let us know. Again, it's 100% anonymous, whatever, if you post something in the Q&A. But give it a moment. Maybe you've already thought about what those things are that you want to commit to change in 2025. But if not, here's a chance to give it some thought. So,
You know what I liked about that poll while they're doing that, Paul, is to see that if you're feeling stressors and things are happening, you don't sleep, you have life satisfaction issues, sometimes it can feel like you're the only one that's happening to. And it's great when you have this many lawyers answer it and they said, no, you're not. There's a lot of us are having the exact same problems. You know, on the one hand, that's sad, but on the other hand, it makes you realize that you're not alone. And sometimes that could be helpful.
I'm going to check the Q&A, see how some responses are. More exercise, drop weight, lose 5 pounds, travel, exercise, eliminate coffee consumption. Getting a good assistant to help me manage my emails.
I think I'm going to write that one down. We have good assistants, but I'm still managing my emails.
Find better work-life balance, more socializing, develop a hobby, increase in-person networking, Do more transactional and less litigation work. Retire. Improve time management, less social media, decrease alcohol consumption. Here's someone working 45 years at the practice of law. Take more time off, travel, spend less time mindlessly scrolling. Well, this gives us a good idea of what are on people's minds, and these are all good intentions. And we're going to transition now into another part of the program on page 9 and look at what is resilience. That's a big takeaway that we have developed for today's presentation. And resilience really is the ability to bounce back from something, bounce back from a setback, a challenge, a difficult or stressful situation. I have to tell you, the past couple of weeks, or week specifically, it's been 8 or 9 days, have been difficult for me living in Los Angeles, where I know a number of judicial colleagues and lawyers, and I have family friends who are literally homeless. It makes me sad just as I think about this because of the devastation that they face. And we are beginning as a community in Southern California, here in Los Angeles, to be talking about what is it to be resilient? How do you bounce back from this? Well, you don't just do it over the weekend. This is something that's going to take a lot of work individually and as a community. And so there are different ways to bounce back and to practice resilience. And resiliency, some people are born with an innate ability to be resilient. Others of us have to work at it. So here are some tools that we want to share with you. And we're going to start with, we have different spheres of resiliency. We have physical, emotional, spiritual, social, and mental. So we're going to take a few minutes and just talk about those various topics. And Steve, I think you've got the first one.
Yeah, physical. Physical is pretty much just what you think it is. They're all kind of things that things your mom told you that you should be doing, and it's the categories come all around. You could have regular exercise is one, which is very important. Getting enough sleep, at least 7 hours. Proper diet, nutrition, cutting back on the booze, staying hydrated. Those are all aspects of good physical treatment of your body, leading towards happiness and well-being. They're kind of overwhelming to think about all those things, especially if you're not doing any of them. A lot of us in our sedentary lifestyle, we just sit at the computer all day, and then we go home and watch TV, and then we go to bed. And it's hard, I think, if you're in one of those, or even if you are meeting some of these now, to increase and get better at them. All of it is difficult. It takes some effort, but the studies show that if you just start with one, you could just take one step, that you could go in maybe even only in even one category. You could end up starting your path to better physical health. Say you just pick and say, I'm going to start doing exercise. I saw that in a lot of people's responses. Exercise, you can start slow, really concentrate on that, and then maybe address some of the other categories as time goes on. And that's the way, chipping away, finding ways to get yourself a little more healthy, a little better physically every day I think is the best way. The studies show it is. If you go all say, I'm going to do all this at once and it's a brand new thing, it's too much, I think, for anybody to take. But if you just say, I'm going to take, instead of eating that cheeseburger for lunch, I'm bringing a healthy salad or a healthy lunch with me to the office, then I'd be able to eat it at the office, and I end up with some extra time. I can go for a walk, and if I'm lucky, I could do the social one too and bring somebody with me and talk about their family and what's going on. And it's really actually pretty easy to do with that time, as opposed to doing the unhealthy behaviors that you did before. And yeah, it really quickly you start liking them better than what you were doing. It sounds a little preachy, and I do a lot of unhealthy things, but I try my best to be as healthy as I possibly can and keep it foremost in my mind that I need to do more.
I'll just add one thing to this, which is about sleep. Sleep is so important. It's recommended that we get 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night. And that's sometimes a real challenge with the schedules that lawyers have, professionally and personally, trying to balance and blend everything that we have going on. So it's so helpful to develop a sleep hygiene practice, to make sure that you're cutting off your social media and your cell phones and things of that sort before you get into bed, and you use that time separately, that time that you actually are going into the comfort of your bed to sleep, and not still be affixed to social media, which is really can cripple us, and it's like a magnet at times. I know I struggle with that, but having good sleep hygiene is so important. All right, our next area is emotional, and it's really about managing emotions that support positive emotions and practicing how to recover quickly from negative ones. So that's about retraining your mind to some extent. Now, emotions are emotions. They're not thoughts, but you can switch negative emotions to positive emotions. For example, practicing gratitude. Often I'll get in a funk, and if I start thinking about what are all the things I need to be grateful in life, my family, my friends, my community, the comforts that I have in my home, things like this, that's being grateful. And that can change. It switches my attitude from something that might be negative to being positive. Is so powerful. I mean, there's actually neurology that's happening in our brains, changing chemicals from negative to positive, and it's effective and it's studied. And some of this can be through journaling, just writing that down, taking the time to write some of these things down about what you're grateful for. And it's about avoiding being emotionally reactive and being prone to panic, right? We can be overwhelmed, whether it's work, it could be something personally, but it's being shifting that so that you can be rooted in a sense of calm, so that you are practicing and having control over what is going on with you. You can't control what's going on outside of you. You can't control what another person does, feels, thinks, or says. You can also react to that. But if you shift this so that it's calm to you, it's almost what I like to say is you are being the beach, right? The tide is coming in, the waves are hitting you, but you're there solid, calm, and able to deal with whatever is coming at you emotionally. And let me just add one last point on this. Talking about gratitude, also talk about kindness. And it's about being kind to each other, to in our profession, which requires changing the tone. And MRIs demonstrate that people who practice this really do have a sense of serenity. Steve, do you want to add anything to that, or should I go to the next one?
I heard you say the word emotional reactions. I know when I do judicial trainings on demeanor on the bench, and it's something that I use in my personal life, and it really helps me. Is that when things can happen, people can say things that seem insulting. People can say things to you when you're sitting up on the bench, and this could be in your regular day, not just as a lawyer, but a lawyer, it happens a lot. And when that happens and you feel yourself start to go, like you're emotionally reacting with anger or with some type of negative emotion, to think, wait, I'm not going to react, I'm going to reflect. And it takes a very few seconds to, as soon as you do that, you realize you could feel it, this is triggering something in me. I'm about to react. I'm going to reflect instead, which is, hey, I'm about to react to this. I'm not going to do it. You take back control of the emotions that way. And it's a way to stay calm. It really does. It works on the bench. It works in my private life too. I use it all the time. Now it's like a second nature. And I think it can be very helpful.
You know, there's something very mysterious about silence. You know, when we're in the courtroom and we hear advocates going back at each other, back and forth, and they're kind of looking at you like to engage you, to bring them into their conflict, and you don't say anything. It really does. It just kind of takes the air out of the room. But you know, let me move on to the next slide, and I think it's number 12. So some examples of resilience in spiritual life. And this one is, I'm not talking about going to church or synagogue. What I'm talking, it may be for some people, that may be it. But what I'm talking about is developing a practice of a sense of meaningfulness and purpose in all aspects of life. All right. And, you know, it's understanding that there is a great mystery. That could be sky beyond the clouds, the universe. It could be in the ocean, letting the waves pass. But it allows self-awareness to go beyond what is internally. And this is what gives us a connection then to the bigger world. And having that for so many people provides a sense of calm. It provides a sense of purpose. And it allows you to understand what your role is in the world and what's going on outside of the world. And this is what can motivate so many to do acts of kindness, acts of gratitude, because they're part of the bigger family of life.
Social connections are crucial to mental health. The lack of social connections can increase stress hormones, weaken the immune system, decrease cardiovascular function, can have really, really, really negative effects on people. And the opposite applies. The more meaningful social interactions that you have and relationships, the happier you're going to be. The well-being index goes up. The more social interactions, meaningful social interactions you have. In fact, meaningful is not even the most important part about it. It's good to have them, but just having them with your neighbor, having them with the guy you know at the grocery store, or the guy at the gas station. I have one that I love to go to my gas station because I've made friends with the guy who runs the place. So we talk about all kinds of things, and I don't get out of there after I pump my gas. I like that though. It's one of my favorite social interactions during the day, but you know, it's usually not that long, but it's a good one. There's a lot of ways to get that kind of social interactions and social relationships. Keeping regular contact with your friends, which is a hard thing. We're all busy as lawyers, and it's hard to do that. Sometimes keeping contact with even the people that you really want to, special friends, is hard. I know I've got a couple of text trees with my old college roommates. I got one with them, and we text all the time. And a lot of times, just having a text go through makes you connect, and you think about that person. A lot of times, it then leads to a telephone call or reconnection with somebody who's meant a lot to you over time. So if you could get into one of those, I'm sure a lot of you have them, but I found that they're very good. Zoom groups. I know Zoom groups of friends can work as well to maintain connection with people without having to travel. Technology is good for that. I just had an example of that. I was up for the weekend skiing, and one of the guys I was with, one of my old partners, is in a Zoom group with people he went to college with 100 years ago, but they meet once a month on this Zoom group, and one of the people on the Zoom group, who they've now known for all these years, had his house burned down in the Pasadena fires, and just watching them in the room interact, the social support from these old relationships that have been maintained all this time was really meaningful. And I know not only helped the person who had gone through the tragedy, but helped everyone who was supporting that person. It goes both ways. The social interaction benefits are whether you're the supporter or the supported. Both the studies show have increased your well-being. Spending quality time with loved ones, which is something that we try to do, but the more we could do it, the better. Engaging in volunteer work, and this is one that's very important to me, not just in the legal profession. When I speak to young lawyers, I always say, you're a lawyer now. You and I know as a young lawyer, you don't really know that much, but other people don't know. And so they all want you to be involved in their organization. So anything that you're interested in, non-law, get in, the door will open for you. If you want to, I know I started when I was a young lawyer, I got involved with the developmental disability, people with developmental disability, their rights, and psychiatric disability rights. And I served on a number of boards through the years, made social connections that I still see. It was just a great extra aspect of my life at a time where some of what I was doing in my daily work was not very valuable. I know I've got a good friend. She really likes the theater. She got on a board of San Francisco theater group that's very nationally known, and she loves it. She does rather be there volunteering her time than she would be at the job now these days, and it made such a value in her life. Let me see, where am I else? Taking classes at the local community center is a good way to meet people. Joining any kind of group based on your interests. I know a bunch of judge friends of mine and attorneys are involved in various different groups, cycling, exercise groups, those kind of things are always good. But interest groups, many other kinds are out there. One of the judges I know just retired. He's he's always liked geology, and he got into a geology group, and they go travel and they're studying rocks. I don't know that much about rocks, but he's very excited about them. And he's excited about his new friends that he's made. And neighbors. Neighbors are great. I know I mentioned that, but there's nothing I like better than taking my garbage out and just having a brief interaction with the neighbors. And they could be long-held interactions, long-held friendships that can really bolster your feelings just for a short time every single day.
Steve, I think what you've been talking about is connection. It's about connecting with each other. And the opposite of connection or reaching out is isolation. And this is really I think the danger that so many of us can face, especially those who are working in very difficult jobs and occupations, and you just want to go home and rest and leave me alone. I don't want to have to make another decision. I've been making decisions and telling people what to do all day. I just want to be alone. Well, some folks need to recharge, and that's completely healthy and normal. But what you're talking about, Steve, is about having some kind of existing network that you've developed and created so that you can tap into that, as well as being present and being aware so that when you have these opportunities, when you are at the store and you meet someone or at the gas station, as you've described, this is where you can actually have changes going on in your body and in your brain because of this kind of interaction that you're having. And it's so important. The studies show that social connection is the key to happiness. It's the key also to longevity in our lives. And so this cannot be underestimated at all in terms of this. So let me move on to the next slide, and it's going to be the last one in this particular topic, and that's mental. So this is about practicing activities that improve focus and calmness. As I mentioned at the beginning, not everyone is into mediation. Now, mindfulness is a subset of mindfulness is meditation. It can build skills to manage stress, increases self-awareness. It's about having focus in the present, help you reduce negative emotions, and really gain a new perspective on stressful situations. So this is about slowing down your mental processes that will then allow you to notice as much as possible in a given moment or situation. And this requires focusing on the breath. So if we have time at the end of this, we're just going to spend a minute to do a breathing exercise. It'll be a little bit guided, but in the meantime, let me just give you a takeaway here. And if you have your paper and pen again, and write down stop, S-T-O-P. So I'm going to go through each letter. The S means for stop. The T is about taking a breath. The O is observe your body and notice what's going on. And the P is proceed and pay attention and be non-judgmental. So this is something we can do mentally. Stop. You can do it in the car, at the red light. You can do it in your driveway before you get out of the car to go home. Helps you get a transition into a different, something else different. It can happen when you're at your desk, in the courtroom. It can happen anywhere. But it's really about getting in touch with your breath. You know, one of the things that I tend to do is I hold my breath, and I'm in my head. So I'm having all these conversations up here in my head, or I'm thinking about this or that, and I'm holding my breath as I'm doing that. And I realize what's going on. I'm not getting enough oxygen into my body. And so it's so important to bring focus and to bring it back to your breath. And, you know, the United States military has conducted extensive studies on the impact of mindfulness training and meditation. And they find that soldiers are more calm, they're more focused, and they make better decisions, whether it's in a time of crisis or even if it's not. So the last point I wanted to make with this is to know that you can practice it at any time. And, you know, mindfulness can be, it's not just about this, meditation, but it could be about washing the dishes at home, giving specific attention to the task at hand and what you're doing. It could be gardening. It could be even walking, purposely walking. And as you're going through and you're outside, let's say, and you're looking at your senses are exposed to everything, and your hearing all of a sudden is more perceptive to what is out, the birds or something that's going on outside, and also you get a better sense of smell. So anyway, there's a lot of things that include mindfulness. It's not just about the meditation piece.
We'll go to the next one, authenticity. I don't know if some of you probably have heard of this. It's an area that's been studied a lot in the last 10 years. A definition of authenticity, I found, is it means being true to your own personality, values, and spirit, regardless of the internal or external pressures that are placed on you to act otherwise. There's many studies are showing that if you're one person at home and then you're a completely different person at work, it puts a great deal of stress on you. It's a way to lower life satisfaction and knocks well-being well down. It's a difficult thing. You're in a weird to be two people in one body, depending on day or night and where you are and how and what you're doing. Lawyers are particularly vulnerable to this because it's such a conservative and traditional profession. And really, nobody acts like a lawyer at home. And you just don't. You do at the office. But there's ways to be a lawyer and still stay true to your inner personality. A lot of us shed our true personality because there's roles that you think you have to play as an attorney at the office or in court, and the roles that have been reinforced by maybe partners or other people at your firm, what you've seen on TV, what you think is what a lawyer is supposed to be like. And you have to play those even though it's not really you deep inside. And it causes real problems. I know it did for me when I first started practicing. I first lawyer in the family. I didn't know how to act as a lawyer, so I was kind of acting like I did on TV. They didn't teach me at law school, and so I got very stern. I was kind of trying to be Perry Mason. I can remember, and I wasn't happy with it. It wasn't working because I'm no Perry Mason. So I had a senior partner take me aside, said, "Hey, I noticed you seem kind of tight, and I see you in social situations. You're not. Just be like yourself. You'll do fine. You might not be as articulate as somebody else. Just get up there and just act like yourself. People like that. You're credible if you're like that because you're being yourself. If you try to be somebody else, you're never going to be credible in the eyes of others as if you be yourself. And it's much more effective when you're talking to people. Plus, you take a whole level of stress where you're trying to play and act like somebody you think you're supposed to be. If you just act like yourself, your satisfaction goes way up. And I did it. It was really, I loved it. I was a much better lawyer, and I slept better at night. It was a lot easier to do. And then the thing was funny. I kind of forgot it when I got on the bench, and I was being like the judges on TV and in the movies, being kind of a grump and sitting there and not saying much of, sustained, overruled. Next case that was kind of like that, and it didn't. I wasn't happy. I remember my court reporter telling me, "You're so much nicer back in chambers. You should act like that." And so I started to kind of loosen up, and as soon as I did, you could feel it. I felt better, and when I felt better, everybody around me felt better, and it was much more effective as a judge. I encourage you all to take a look at the article that was attached. It's referenced here. The surprising master key to happiness and satisfaction, according to the lawyer research. It says that the single most important factor for happiness and life satisfaction for lawyers is authenticity. Based on its extensive research, that one came up number one. So it's something that if you're not aware of it, there's lots of material on it out there. You can read up on it and see just how important it is and techniques for doing it.
Yeah, this is the last point that we made at the beginning in terms of our learning objectives for today, which is being authentic. It's about finding your voice and be that voice. And it's difficult, as you mentioned, Steve. In law school, we are taught to be in a certain way, perhaps. And I know actually that law schools are concerned about what kind of new lawyers they're producing. I know that at UCLA, there's actually a course about finding that voice, about being authentic, so that your values are congruent with the kind of person that you want to be and who you are. There's a wonderful study that is under the supervision right now of Arthur Brooks at Harvard. And maybe you've seen this study where they've looked at men over the past 75 years, and they regularly question and ask how their lives are and what's going on in their lives. And some of the takeaways from that include having close relationships strengthens your muscle to happiness. Also, taking care of yourself physically, financially, and emotionally. These are also keys to happiness. And happiness comes from choosing happiness. It's a choice. And a couple of things I'll just to go to here now in terms of tools to promote resilience. Here we see them here, but it's amazing how having a pet can bring so much joy to a person, particularly if it's a family pet. Also, mending fences, not carrying the baggage of having resentments against other people or anger, mending fences, reaching out.
I think that's a huge one. I really do think that's a big one. It eats away at people, and in our profession too, I know lawyers end up just really getting intensely angry and stewing over other people or other things that happen in the case instead of just letting it go. It's as on the bench, I used to say, yeah, it's like water off the duck's back. I go like that, not even say it. I just imagine it rather than move my hand. And it was always helpful when I found myself starting to go down that road.
That's right. And the last point I want to make is forgiveness heals. And that's letting go of what you're talking about and in terms of those mending fences. It can be a very therapeutic and healing sense to our entire being. So I think we've covered all our slides.
Yeah, we hit the time too. Pretty good.
We
Okay.
have here. We had a couple of questions that I wanted to pitch to you since we have just another minute here on the webinar. We had, how does any of this come into mediating, since that is what you guys do all day long? What do you
I think it happens if I'm not in the right state of mind, the mediation doesn't work. That's one thing I know. So I spend a lot of time making sure that from the very beginning of the mediation that I've got my act together, that I am all I can be. I got a good night's sleep before. I make sure I get a breakfast in me, and I try not to drink too much coffee. That's all the first things. And then I listen in the moment. I spend a lot of time trying to listen and really hear people, so the social connections that happen during mediation are really special to me, and I enjoy them. How about you, Paul?
Those are all great points. So many people just want to be heard. And of course, we're retired judges, and they find a special connection if they can tell their story or say something to a judge. Not that I have all the right answers, but that's the format that we live within. And so by demonstrating that you could be the calm one amidst the chaos provides them a sense of that we're going to get through this. We're going to actually have a good outcome. We're just going to have to get through the process. And so it's keeping people who are disconnected on balance so that we can work towards that outcome, knowing that it will eventually happen.
I think empathy is really important too. I just really is listening and putting yourself in the place of the people that are there. Everyone's upset. They're involved in a lawsuit. Who wants to be involved in a lawsuit? Even the lawyers don't want to sometimes. And so, but especially the parties, and to be able to really listen to them and feel what they're feeling and be able to empathize with it, I think is important too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can imagine at the end of a long day of mediation, everybody's not feeling their best. Would you ever do a breathing exercise during a tough session, do you think?
I might try it. I haven't. Have you done it, Paul?
Well, I have done it in court during trial. I've done it with juries. I've done it, and the juries love it, actually. I say, you don't have to go through with it as the guided meditation, but they end up doing it. And they ask to do it after the lunch break, when everybody gets there, and everyone has a different level of emotion. And so it brings everybody on the same page. I've done it where I've seen the lawyers getting out of control and say, okay, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna do this and calm down. I've done a walking meditation. I've taken the jury out into the hallway and we kind of walk through, and they come back,
great.
And everyone kind of feels centered once again.
That's great.
Well, we are at our end of the time today, and I do want to let everybody go and enjoy their wellness time on their own, get some work-life balance going. I want to thank both of you, Judge Bacigalupo and Judge Austin, for a great program to close our presentation off this afternoon. And I really want to thank all of our attendees for sticking with us for the last 2 days of marathon MCLE programming. Thank you all for being here. The lobby will
Katie?
stay open. Yes, go ahead, Judge Bacigalupo.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I did want to leave a couple of points with folks, and that is, if you need help, you can call the state bar. And I saw that actually the state bar right now is developed like a hotline and will allow 2 therapeutic sessions so that you can talk to a therapist or a counselor if you need to. There's also the other bar that's available for those who feel that they've got a substance abuse issue. And you know what? There's nothing shameful at all in seeking professional help if you need mental health help. Thank you.
And I want to say thanks for the emojis. First time I've taught with emojis, and I love it. It's very positive feedback, and I love to see it. So, because when you're just up here talking, you don't have any feedback, and then to see them come up, it makes me feel good.
ADR Services, Inc. has been your unwavering partner in alternative dispute resolution. But as the world changed, so did we. From virtual and hybrid hearings to our ongoing on-demand CLE program, ADR Services, Inc. continues to keep resolution and legal education at the forefront, woman-owned and operated from the start. There is someone for every situation. We are ADR Services, Inc.